Hello again, and thank you so much for joining me this Sunday. I'm Frederica Whitfield in Washington this inauguration weekend. All right, this just into CNN. Donald Trump has just made remarks and honored first responders as he hosted the inaugural Law Enforcement Officers and First Responders reception. This taking place at the White House. Let's listen in.
And my great choice, and we're going to have a great 8 years together, as we say. And again, the inauguration was such a success and such a safety success, and we want to thank you all because it was really a very, very special experience. And General, congratulations! I just happened to see you and your very beautiful wife, and just sworn in. General Kelly just sworn in by the Vice President, and it's going to be a great thing happens along our borders. I campaigned very much on security and border safety, and General Kelly is going to do an incredible job. So, again, I want to thank you. I wanted to come down personally. How are you? There's the man, right? Come on, get over here. What a job. From day one, I have felt safe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, sir. It was a great weekend.
Thank you. Stay up here. So let's, and there's James. He's become more famous than me. Let's take some pictures and say hello to each other.
All right, some interesting moments there as you see President Donald Trump welcoming and honoring first responders there, this coming after a swearing in earlier today of senior staff. And you also saw that moment there of a friendly handshake with FBI's James Comey. Our CNN's White House correspondent Jeff Zeleny is there outside the White House. This has been an incredible day of contrast there at the White House. Tell us more about that moment with the first responders and that moment with James Comey.
Well, Frederica, you saw it play out there, right there. That's in the blue room of the White House. And the president and vice president were thanking the first responders, the law enforcement agencies that helped lead the security and protection of the inauguration. But certainly that moment there of James Comey, the FBI director, who had become front and center both before the election and then after the election in the wake of the controversy over the email investigation, of course, of one-time rival Hillary Clinton. Well, there was, I wouldn't quite call it a hug, but it was definitely a handshake and sort of leaned in. James Comey is a very tall man. He's one of the tallest officials in Washington. We're talking basketball player height. So he went in and leaned in to the president there. So it may have looked like a hug, but look, he said, you're becoming more famous than I am. That's what the president said to the FBI director. He looked a little bit uncomfortable in that moment, certainly. But look, this is the second time we've seen the president today making the rounds of these official-type photo opportunities in the blue room there of the White House. Of course, this followed after he watched the swearing in of his team of senior advisors a little earlier this afternoon in the East Room of the White House, where he did strike that very different tone from yesterday.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about what took place just maybe about an hour and a half ago.
Each other and the faith in God, we will get the job done. We will prove worthy of this moment in history, and I think it may very well be a great moment in history. So be proud, be very proud.
All right, so Jeff, earlier today with that, swearing in taking place of senior officials, President Trump also saying this is not about party ideology, this is about country and about serving the American people.
He did indeed, and he said, we will serve this moment in history here. And he was sort of giving an admonition and talking to his senior advisors there, most of whom we don't often see in front of the camera. They're usually behind the scenes people. So that's why today those pictures were so interesting of Steve Bannon, the chief strategist, Reince Priebus, the chief of staff, who is of course more visible, but Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, who will be a senior advisor here. So seeing all those assistants to the president, it's the top level the top layer of staff people there were receiving the oath. And the president, again, striking a different tone from yesterday, not talking about his election win, not talking about crowd sizes, talking about this moment for them in history. And he urged them to go forth and seize it.
All right, Jeff Zeleny, thank you so much. Appreciate it. So Donald Trump taking the stage as an international leader, and one of the first acts of reshaping the United States relationship with Israel. We know that earlier today, aside from the swearing in there, aside from the moment with the first responders, President Trump having a phone call with Israel's Netanyahu. And so we understand that this is a potential move to try and get the American embassy to relocate from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Press Secretary Sean Spicer replied that the White House was in the, quote, very beginning stages. That move was one of Trump's key campaign promises. The president and his Israeli counterpart speaking on that phone earlier this afternoon in what Trump described to reporters as a, quote, very nice call. Let's discuss this now with my panel. A lot to talk about from the demeanor of President Trump today. Quite the contrast. Julian Zelitzer, who is a historian and professor at Princeton University. Ryan Lizza, a CNN political commentator and a Washington correspondent for The New Yorker. Brian Morgenstern, a Republican strategist. And Ellis Hennigan, a political analyst. Good to see all of you. All right, so first let's talk about the demeanor. This is the contrast today, the demeanor of President Trump at the business of the White House, staffing, paying respects to the first responders, sending a message that among his top agendas is dealing with the U.S. Embassy in Israel. So, Julian, what is this day all about? It seems as though it's a press the reset button.
I'm not sure it's press the reset. I think we're going to see a lot of back and forth with President Trump. Yesterday was distraction. It was to create something of a frenzy over crowd sizes. Today, I think he's sending a signal that on certain issues he will move to the right as promised. With Israel, he sent this signal already by appointing David Friedman, and he hasn't been subtle about this. We should remember, though, it's not a total reset. The Obama administration has been very supportive of Israel, financially, militarily. So this is a particular part of that, and it's also about the Iran deal, which Trump opposes and is testing the waters if it can be undone.
Syria, Iran, also on the front burners as it pertains to this potential move, Ryan.
Well, look, I think it's very, very important what Netanyahu told the President Trump in that call. There's a lot of talk in Israeli politics of does Netanyahu and do the Israelis really want the embassy, the American embassy, moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem right now, right? Other presidents have promised that move and then have promised there would be a long process and never got around to doing it. We know that our close allies in Jordan have warned Trump not to do this, saying it would lead to an earthquake in the Middle East. And so the fact that Spicer said it's the very beginning stages suggests that maybe they're not going to precipitously move it, that they're going to announce some sort of process. You never know. Maybe they're going to move it tomorrow. But I think it's very important what the Israelis actually, whether they want this to happen right away or whether they want to slow track it.
It could be like releasing tax returns. It's going to happen eventually.
Not anymore. According to Kellyanne, who was on Meet the Press earlier today, who said it's not going to happen, and that the American public has demonstrated that it really shouldn't matter. So Brian, as it pertains to Donald Trump, a different tone today. We even saw him referring to notes during that swearing in as he talked about, offering condolences to Georgia, 12 people now killed in the storms. He also talked about the letter that he received from President Obama. He doesn't want to share it with the press, but he said it was very nice. So in the terms of reset, is it a reset of a demeanor from President Trump today?
Well, he's being the most presidential you've ever seen, right? He's appreciating the gravity of the moment. And you have to sort of understand that when you are in the East Room and maybe you were working in Trump Tower for the last few years, and then you're standing in front of a portrait of George Washington taking an oath to uphold the Constitution, if that doesn't move you and make you appreciate the gravity of what you are doing serving the country, I don't know what will. So I think that was the president and his senior staff really, getting into that sort of frame of mind, that this is not about rallies anymore. This is about governing the United States of America.
Let's listen to Kellyanne Conway on this on Meet the Press this morning as it pertains to the taxes and the returns that you'll now never see.
The White House response is that he's not going to release his tax returns. We litigated this all through the election. People didn't care. They voted for him. And let me make this very clear. Most Americans are very focused on what their tax returns will look like while President Trump is in office, not what his look like. And you know full well that President Trump and his family are complying with all the ethical rules, everything they need to do to step away from his businesses and be a full-time president.
So, Ellis, what's going on here?
Well, politically, I think she's probably right. Until such a time as all of those promises that turn out not to be true add up and cause some kind of political upheaval. I got to tell you, though, Fred, I'm more stuck on that Comey Trump whispering back and forth. God, I would love to have seen the bubble above those heads, right? I mean, what did he say? Thank you. Where did it go? You know, because. Mark my words on one thing, though, that I think might surprise you, though, on Comey, is that while he was obviously hugely effective in the Trump campaign right before the election, having covered him as United States Attorney in the Southern District in New York, do not assume that he's always on that side forever. He could easily bounce back and forth.
Well, I wonder, can we re-rack that actually while we're talking? That moment where President Trump is talking to first responders there. This happened just moments ago. James Comey is in the room, FBI. Let's listen to, if we can hear, a little bit more precisely what Donald Trump said.
We're going to have a great 8 years together, as we say. And again, the inauguration was such a success and such a safety success. And we want to thank you all because it was really a very, very special experience. And in general, congratulations. I just happened to see you and your very beautiful wife and just sworn in, General Kelly just sworn in by the Vice President. And it's going to be a great thing happens along our borders. I campaigned very much on security and border safety. And General Kelly is going to do an incredible job. So, again, I want to thank you. I wanted to come down personally. How are you? There's the man, right? Come on, get over here. What a job. From day one, I have felt safe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, sir. It was a great weekend.
Thank you. Stay up here with us. So let's, and there's Jim. He's become more famous than me.
Okay, well, is that a better shot of being able to hear what was said?
Oh, man.
It looked amicable. How about that?
Oh, I would say beyond. I mean, friendly. Don't forget, though, the FBI director does not serve at the pleasure of the president. He has a set term. He can stay around as long as he likes, frankly, no matter what he does.
Well, it's a 10-year term. The president of the United States could theoretically fire him. It would be an uproar if he actually did that. The norm is that you do not do that. But constitutionally, I think Trump would actually be on solid ground if he wanted to get rid of him. But the ranker, if he did that,
different from others.
Absolutely.
It's a difficult
10-year term. He's supposed to be insulated from politics.
Yes.
It's a difficult moment for many people to see, I would say, after the inauguration. I think there's many who believe that Comey letter on October 28th really cost her the election, and the subsequent stories about the other investigation that was going on that didn't come out are still very hot in the press. And so there's the humor, but I also think that doesn't sit very well after the inauguration, imagining what that relationship is or why that happened.
I mean, think about this relationship here. Comey is the person who reportedly brought Trump aside and briefed him on that famous dossier of controversial, unverified material that was circulating among journalists in the intelligence community. That was Comey who briefed him on that. It was that briefing that was then leaked to the press that caused that information to be published. Yeah. So very fraught relationship. I think in Trump's mind, he's suspicious of Comey because of that interaction led to the public reporting of that dossier. On the Democratic side, great distrust of Comey because of Democrats believe he interfered in the election by reporting on the investigation of the emails at the last minute. But a lot of Democrats, I will tell you, they would rather have Comey stay in that job now than whoever Trump
Some
would
loyalists
replace Comey
bring
with.
in, right?
Right.
Some loyalists.
Well, and Trump also doesn't want the credit for his election going to the FBI. He doesn't want it going to the Russians. He doesn't want it going to anyone, other than his movement, as he describes it, his people. And so, pushing back as he has been with regard to Comey's influence, as well as crowd sizes and hacking and everything else, is part of a strategy where presidents are effective when they're popular, and when they demonstrate shows of popular support, congressmen are more likely to cozy up, and they're more likely to adopt their agenda and things like that. And so this administration pushing back on these notions that we're describing is strategically common sense.
Yeah, and he knows it's favorable to look like things are amicable, even if, public perception is a relationship may have gone awry, or that it's, the other
And
way
he
around.
he also wants to, I think, make the relations with the intelligence community somewhat better, not totally better. I don't
Mending.
think he's going to drop the message,
Right.
but I do think you're going to have more communication, because now that he is president, he needs them.
Yeah,
And
he didn't get
there
politically-
has to be this mending phase.
But it's going to take a while. He didn't yesterday.
One final
All right.
thing on
No
Kellyanne
pivot.
and tax returns. I think it is important to point out two things about that. One, almost every poll shows that over a majority, as many as 2/3 of Americans, want Trump to release his tax returns. And number two, when she says it was litigated in the campaign, well, Trump said he will release his tax returns
Once
after
elected.
No, well, he said
after an
after
audit.
the audit was completed. So if you were an American voter who was trusting Donald Trump and didn't and was saying, okay, I want those tax returns, but it'll be okay if it's after the election.
Yeah.
To me, that counts as
And now it's
as
very
something
specific. Even after
incorrect,
the audit,
false.
it will not be released.
Right. So this
All
is
right.
their first major campaign
Yeah.
promise broken.
Suckers.
All right, thanks so much, guys. Okay, we're gonna stop it there, but we have much more time in which to have more conversations on this. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.